So this is Baruch Fleischman, and let me remind you that we're learning over here at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel, The Ultimate Connection with God by Rabbi Etz Chaim Mimran. Now we're going to pick up over here and try to get through this piece today. Remember that we had the words yesterday, abracadabra, that he's saying that in terms of speech and the word that you say that you're saying, they're all composed of different kinds of letters. And those letters have power, especially the Hebrew letters particularly. And this is the word I will create, ka'adabra, as I speak. I create as I speak. So over here, we're going to a different set of languages, and I could bring this down a little bit. It says, in the Kabbalistic literature, rising to the higher spiritual realms is known as climbing or ascending the tree of life. This is alluded to when the Torah speaks of the cherubs who guard the path of the tree of life. You could see that, but is the concept of this tree of life. It's interesting that I'm going to a acupuncturist, a Chinese lady, and she told me that if you go on your walk, I go on a walk, I walk some, lean against a tree, bounce off the tree, or your back off the tree. She said that, she said she doesn't know why. She said it's an ancient Chinese ritual for older people to back up and bounce off of a tree, just lightly. So here we come in the idea of the tree of life. So hence the word Siyach. Now going back to the pasuk that was talking about, the word Siyach has two meanings. The word Siyach returns to a tree. The tree in its spiritual sense, where it is used as a meditative device to commune with the transcendental. This tree is often said to refer to the entire array of the sphirot. It's like a tree with branches. And as we have seen, ascending through this array plays a key role in prophetic meditation. The relationship between the concept of a tree and the mental process is to some extent indicated by the fact that the Hebrew word for tree, which is etz, is closely related to the root ya'etz, which means advise. Now, I was thinking that etz is the number 90 and 70, which is 160, which for those of you who are familiar with Kabbalah is the gematria. It's the same gematria as the word kasef, still, but it's the gematria of a permutation of the name Akia. So let's see, that which is a level of enlightenment. So he says meaning to advise, but also means to take advice. So the relationship, he says like this is where we're supposed to start today, between Siyach used in relationship to communion with the spiritual, and its meaning as a tree is clearly expressed in the Midrash. When Hagar and Yishmael were driven away by Sarah, the Bible states that Hagar, that's Hagar and Yishmael, they're his mother, cast a child on one of the trees. Now the word used over there in Genesis is the word Siyach. The Midrash states that the tree is called Siyach because it was there that an angel called the commune, that is Siyach. Siyach is language of intimate talk. With Hagar, he said, it is significant to note that this took place in Ber Lachai Roi. So this is the Ber means a spring. Lachai, of life, Florida of the I'm not sure what Roi means, that he's visible, something like that. The same place where Isaac meditated and where the term suach is first used. So now wait a minute. He says these facts, that the place where the miracle took place for Yishmael, Ismael, was in a place underneath a tree called the Siyach. And this is the same place of meditation called the Ber Lachai Roi, which is a place of a spring of flowing waters. That's the same place where Isaac meditated and where the term suach is first used. Now he says this can be understood when we realize that this is used with regard to Yitzchak Avinu. Yitzchak Avinu is one of the patriarchs of the Jewish people, individuals in this individual, who reached the very highest spiritual levels. Thus, while others may strive to gaze at the chariot, so there's a concept that others want to chase at the chariot, as the Medrash says, so this is Yechezkel in his vision, 10 spheres of nothingness, it said, because you're beyond physicality. Their gazing is like a vision of a lightning flash. They're looking at them is like a lightning flash. Their end has no limit, and they speak of them running and returning. Now that's Yechezkel. The commentaries explain that when one gazes at the Sphirot, he can only go so far. The patriots themselves are the chariot. The 3 lines of, if you know Kabbalah a little bit, the 3 lines of Kabbalah are Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So each one of these is a pathway. They themselves are the chariot. The chariot means a vehicle. They were not like swimmers, fighting the current to ascend upstream, but the individuals smoothly floating on the still waters at the source. These are people who are in oneness with the channel. This is best expressed in the Sefer Yetzirah, one of the most ancient and mysterious Kabbalah texts. It states in the Sefer Yetzirah, an instant seeing them like a lightning flash. One who reaches this level may not remain there for more than an instant. He must run forward and immediately return, casting the barest glimpse at the highest infinite levels. Now, let me read it again, because he said something that didn't make a lot of sense. I'm just wondering how I can understand it. One who reaches this level may not remain there for more than an instant. Okay, I understand that there's a vision there. He must run forward. He says in order to get past this, the person has to run forward and immediately return, casting the barest glimpse at the highest infinite levels. A later mystic, the Hasidic master Rebbe Nachman of Breslov, speaks of this with regards to the infinite being, the Ein Sof Baruch Hu. He writes, it is a light that is so high that one can only reach it by touching and not touching. Now this is touching and not touching, fluttering back and forth so as not to perish within it. The prophets would meditate. That's called hisbodedus or hisboded, on the highest mysteries of the spheres as well as on the supernal soul, which includes all attributes. They would depict these things in their mind with their imaginative faculty, visualizing them as if they were actually in front of them. When their soul, let me move this up a little bit, when their soul became attached to the supernal soul, in other words, there's a soul within a soul within a soul, and we're talking about the root of the concept of soul. This vision would be increased and intensified. It would then be revealed automatically through a state where thought is utterly absent. I understand why Rabbi Mimran was talked so much at the very beginning about controlling the thoughts in our mind and realizing the difference between our ego and the fights that we're constantly going through, the plans and all the different things that we're doing, and the viewer of that. So in order to be able to separate that, so he says it would only be revealed automatically through a state where thought is utterly absent. It was in this manner that the early saints would raise their thoughts, reaching the place from which their souls emanated. In other words, they came to the root of their own realities. This was also the method of attaining prophecy. The prophet would meditate, he'd be misbaited, directing his heart, and attaching his mind on high. What the prophet would visualize would depend on the degree and means of his attachment. He would then gaze and know what would happen in the future. This is the meaning of this verse, to him shall you cleave. In other words, Devekus. Now, what does that mean? He says he would then gaze and know what would happen in the future. This is the meaning of the verse, to him shall you cleave. So he said, Rabbi Nachman Berkanti, Parshas Vayechi, Sefer Mincha Yehuda, all say the same thing. Mareset Alokut, he says, the master Kabbalist. This is significant since beauty, which is called Tiferes in Kabbalah, is one of the 10 spheros discussed in Kabbalah. The 10 sferot are Keser, Chochmah, Bina, kindness, he says strength, beauty, dominance, submissiveness, reproductive faculty, and receptivity. Malchus is ultimately the ultimate receptacle. These sephiros may be looked upon as dials that can be used to simplify or amplify the experiences associated with them. Thus, since beauty is one of the 10 spheros, one can turn up the dial and amplify the sensation. A little bit difficult for me to understand the end of that. We'll read on. He says in his blurb, the final verb, these sephiros may be looked upon as dials. It gets back to it again. Now, dials mean like dial the old dial telephone, bring it around in a circle. These can be used to amplify the experiences associated with them. This is Baruch Fleischman. That's Rabbi Mimran. Tikkun Elevator Kollel.